My name's Shannon Tindle. I am a director, I am a character designer, I'm a story artist, I write. And my most recent project is On Ice for Google ATAP Spotlight Stories, and I will soon be affiliated with the Walt Disney Company. I was contacted by Karen Dufalo-Rosen, who's the executive producer of Google Spotlight Stories, about a year ago. And she approached me and just said, listen, we're really interested in working with you. We have the Spotlight Stories program and we would love for you to do a short for us. So they were offering me a lot of creative freedom, which is something that's rare in, I think, the film business period. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I would love to work with you guys. So she said, okay, we'll think about the format, watch some of our films, and then throw some ideas at us. So I flew out to Mountain View and I pitched my ideas to the Spotlight Stories team, and they said, pick whatever you'd like. And so I chose what would eventually become On Ice. So On Ice actually started as an idea that I never finished when I was at Cal Arts. It was a student film. I just think bears, when they stand up, they kind of look like people. They look like a guy in a bear suit. They look awkward and they're funny. So I had this idea, and it was a bear on roller skates that involved a jump rope and the Pointer Sisters song, Jump for My Love. I did a little animation on it. I never finished it, but it always stayed with me. So when the Spotlight Stories team approached me, I thought maybe this is a good time to bring that idea back. And after seeing the films, I thought, well, I won't put the bear on roller skates, but if I put him on ice skates, I could put him in the middle of an ice show, because that's something that happens all around you. And because of this format, I thought it was perfect to tell the story in that way. And so I had this idea of the conflict of a guy who's a star of this cheesy sci-fi ice-capade show, and in the middle of it, a bear comes out of nowhere, a real bear, and steals the spotlight away from him. And that's the idea, and that's how I came up with it. Well, because I had seen Windy Day and Buggy Night and seen Duet, the way that Jan pitched it to me was, he said it's like theater. It's more like theater. There's a stage, but there are things happening around you. So think of it as if there's a stage around you and things are happening. So you have to think in a different way. So I started to think in that way, and that's how the idea evolved to use the format, because you're interacting with the audience, but it's also my job as a director to actually tell you a story. And what I find is when people watch something that's interactive or it's VR, they want to explore a little, and then they want you to tell them a story. I think people want you to share a story with them. That's what they expect. Those expectations might change as we dive deeper into it, but it's not a game. I didn't want it to feel like a game. And so I wanted to tell a narrative story with a beginning, middle, and end, which is what the Spotlight Stories project is about. And so how do I tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end when the audience can look away at any point? So that was the challenge, and the idea evolved to use the medium, but with the same goal of telling a coherent story. The first choice that I made was I was going to try and get into the virtual environment as quickly as possible. So it wasn't that it wasn't a challenge to play in the new medium. It's just I have a lot of fun exploring new things. So I was up for trying it out and going on that adventure. So I accepted that. And I was also warned, I should say, that the software was going to be challenging, because it's brand new. We're writing it. We're laying the bridge as we're crossing it. Sometimes we're stepping out off the bridge, hoping that somebody's going to lay a plank under our feet as we move forward. And so it was to try and tell that story around you. So let's try that. That was the exciting part of it. That challenging part was, as Jan had explicitly warned me, things that you did yesterday won't be there today. It's different than film. This is software. It's what they would always say. This is different than, you're not rendering something out that you can just play back. It's happening in real time. And because it's happening in real time, every time that happens, something can go wrong. So you would have things where the character's head would pop off. We had one version, I actually did a drawing of it, where the bear's head his muzzle was pushed through the back of his head. Now some of that stuff happens in CG, but you just render it again. This was a thing that for a week we had to dig into it and try and figure out why it was doing that. And then when we fixed that, another problem would pop up. So it's like leaks would spring up and you put your hand over one and that would cause another leak and you have to put your hand over that. And while you're dealing with the software, but you're still trying to tell your story. And so it was really just spinning plates, as you would normally do as a director. But there are things that I can count on when I'm directing a film or a TV show. This was a whole new set of challenges for me. And luckily we had a really amazing team at ATAP who had written the software, and they would come right over immediately and they would work with me and they said, what do you need? And I said, well, here's an issue. And they would spend hours to smooth things out and fix it. So ultimately it worked out. It was just that white knuckle ride that I keep talking about. I think the biggest thing is that they can explore. So I have the A story that I'm telling, which is the conflict between the star of the show and the bear. But I have things that are, some people call them Easter eggs, I call them subplot. I would ask questions like, well, if the bear is trying to get the laser sword prop out of the skater's hands, what's happening with the rest of the show? Well, we put gags in there so that you can go look and you can see that they're reacting to it. I didn't want it to be a random thing that popped up that didn't actually pertain to the story. I wanted it to be connected to it in some way. Another thing that I did was, a lot of people are resistant to cut in this format, which I think is a mistake. I think it's way too soon to be placing rules on it like that. But I thought very early on, my TD said, hey, don't they have Jumbotrons? I'm like, yeah. And I said, well, if I put shots on the Jumbotron, I can do close-ups, I can do alternate angles, and if you watch the show, you can see different versions of a gag from different points of view and in different compositions, and it's flat. So those are the things I tried to play with. I wish I could have played with it more. I'd love to play with it more, but I think that's the biggest thing, is that it stands up to multiple viewings, and it actually rewards multiple viewings because there's a richer story that's happening away from the A story. There's actually, I don't want to give this particular story beat away, but there was something I wanted to do that we just didn't have the time for, where I wanted the audience, I wanted to kind of poke fun at the format a bit. So we talk about how you can look around and explore however you'd like. And I think you're having fun watching this bear wreck the show, but I thought, well, what if something causes the show to be wrecked for you? So I really want to try to involve you in that way. So you're interacting with it emotionally, and you can be frustrated as well. There was something that we were going to do with one of the characters where it would respond to you when you were trying to interact with it and trying to see the show, and it would interact with you. And it was one of those things that we didn't have time for. So I was actually excited to try it. It's just one of those things that we ran out of time for.